ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ। ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਤੇ ਮੁਕੰਦੇ ਉਦਾਰੇ ਅਪਾਰੇ ਹਰੀਯੰ ਕਰਿਯੰ ਨਿਰਨਾਮੇ ਅਕਾਮੇ ਗੋਬਿੰਦੇ ਮੁਕੰਦੇ ਉਦਾਰੇ ਅਪਾਰੇ ਹਰੀਯੰ ਕਰਿਯੰ ਨਿਰਨਾਮੇ ਅਕਾਮੇ ਗੋਬਿੰਦੇ ਮੁਕੰਦੇ ਉਦਾਰੇ ਅਪਾਰੇ ਹਰੀਯੰ ਕਰਿਯੰ ਨਿਰਨਾਮੇ ਅਕਾਮੇ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। So we're going to continue with the 18th adhyay of Ashtavakra Gita, where Maharaj explains what is the state of Jivan Mukt. So Jivan Mukt is a state where one has attained the Atma Avastha. So what it means is that those who have realized their mool, their Atma Sarup, and they have become one with Akal Purakh himself, they live a very life of liberation. So mukti is the word that's used, that those Mahapurukhs are no longer in any bondage. So Maharaj is explaining that what is this state? And the question arises that is it only available to certain people of certain religion, certain caste, certain gender, and what does one have to do? So we have done vichar of this previously as well, that when a student, a Sikh, goes to the Guru, he or she has to remain in humility so that they can understand the wisdom. And this wisdom is capable of removing the illusion of anyone. It's not based on caste, religion, or anything. There are some steps that are, however, beneficial in this journey, which is always encouraged, such as Sargunapashna, Nirgunapashna, Seva of Guru. So, all these are different ways to remove the impressions of the mind so that one can realize, recognize their pure Atam Sarup, which is this pure consciousness. So, Maharaj says, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਅੱਗੋਂ ਮੋਹ ਦਾ ਪਰਦਾ ਹਟ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ. So those who have completely become detached within. Moh da parda means that they are no longer attached to particular form, name. Now, obviously, as you would notice that when we look at someone, we see them through that form. Let's say we meet someone from a certain country, from a certain part of a um, religion or region in the world. Um, it could be any part of the world, based on their skin color, based on their location, where they were born. We always identify with that person's form. Naturally, the mind starts labeling those as that this person is a female, this is a male, this is an Australian, this is an Indian, this is Canadian. So all these different labels have been given to the forms. So Mara says that this is the reason why we are always entangled in dukh or sukh, because we do not go past this recognition that there is something beyond the form as well, something beyond the name as well. Because the forms and the names are always changing. So, those who have become detached, those who are no longer attached to anything or anyone, they live a very life of freedom within them. ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਰੂਪ ਦੇ ਗ੍ਰਹਿਣ ਅਰਥਾਤ ਪਛਾਣਨ ਮਾਤਰ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਸ਼ੋਕ ਰਹਿਤ ਬਿਰਾਜਦੇ ਹਨ. And while they are detached within themselves, they are remaining as the Atam Sarup. They have recognized the awareness that's behind everything. After doing, like Maharaj says, Bande khoj dil har roz, na fir pareshani mahe. So, this search that Kabir ji talks about, searching within your heart, is about this recognition that what is this source where you originated from? What is this source that is always present? So, after recognizing that vast field of awareness within, they always remain still in that state. And in that way, they don't become um, upset about anything anymore. ਸਲੋਕ ਸਭ ਕਲਪਨਾ ਮਾਤਰ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਆਤਮਾ ਮੁਕਤ ਅਤੇ ਸਦੀਵੀ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਜਾਣ ਕੇ ਕੀ ਗਿਆਨੀ ਬਾਲਕਾਂ ਵਾਂਗ ਯਤਨ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਭਾਵ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਨਿਰਯਤਨ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਸੋ a gyani who has recognized his or her atam sarup, they become completely free from any imaginations. They don't have any desires within the mind anymore. And they have understood that the Atam Swarup is always present. That is the very existence of everything. After knowing this, Maharaj asked a rhetorical questions that does a Gyani really put an effort? This doesn't mean that physically they're not seeing, doing any effort. This is a way of describing the effortless state where Maharaj calls it Sahaj Samadhi, in this very Sahaj Avastha. Means like just how, let's take an example of the wind, like, when the wind blows. Does it really require an effort to do that, or is it just simply blowing? It's like the sun shining. That is the very nature of the sun itself. So it doesn't really put any effort into that. So has the state of a Brahmgyani. They no longer are putting any effort into any of the things that they're doing. Things are naturally happening through them as the nature unfolds, and they are simply still in their field of as the awareness. So here Maharaj gives an example of a child that, if you have noticed, or from your own life, if you can recall that as a child, when we do different things, we always put all these different types of efforts to, get the other next present or something like that. And a child is always like um, occupied in different plays of life. And as we get more and more attached to the forms and names and the scenarios of life, we start becoming more and more attached to all those things. First, starting from our parents, then our parents will introduce us to our siblings, then so and so, like school friends, college friends, partners. So it continues going on. But for someone who has realized that it's just only Atma, a play going on, they completely let go of that attachment. And in that way, they remain in an effortless state. ਸਲੋਕ ਇਹ ਨਿਸ਼ਚਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਿ ਆਤਮਾ ਹੀ ਬ੍ਰਹਮ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਹੋਂਦ ਅਨਹੋਂਦ ਕੇਵਲ ਕਲਪਨਾ ਹੈ ਨਿਸ਼ਕਾਮ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਕੀ ਜਾਣਦਾ ਹੈ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਕੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ so Maharaj says those who have fully processed, experienced within themselves that the Atma that Gurbani was talking about is not a separate thing. It's not something outside, or it's not something that one has to get after they leave the body. So those who have completely understood that that Atma is my own Sarup, and it's not different to Brahm, it's not different to Akal Purakh, it's not different to Paramatma. And that is the only Atma that's pervading everywhere. It's not that one Atma is present in one of the bodies and then the other person has a different Atma. Those are just examples of agyanta. When we speak in agyanta, we say such things that one person has another different atma. The truth is, the consciousness is the same. It appears differently. It appears differently, just like how um, clay pots. It's made from the same clay, and when you break the pot, it is the same form of that clay. However, you might make that clay into a different statue, different form, different sort of you know stuff. However, the clay, the very essence of it is the same, and that's the same with Atma. It appears to be in different forms, and in that way, they have become completely firm that there is no point of questioning or debating about any imaginations anymore. Everything seems to appear like a dream because they have understood that the very nature of life itself, the form and names, they are constantly changing. And in that state, ਉਸ ਦਾ ਹਰ ਪਦਾਰਥ ਕਲਪਨਾ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ, ਜਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਕਾਮਨਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਗਦੀ ਅਤੇ ਉਹ ਨਿਸ਼ਕਾਮ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। Means after realizing this within first from there, that's why the human body is considered extremely precious, because this is the very chance to have this recognition. Rest of all the forms, they are doing the same thing as human beings. They build their places, to like a shelter, nesting, everything. They raise the family. They eat, obviously. They are doing all the things just exactly like how the humans are doing. However, the human intellect has the capacity to go deeper and recognizing this essence that is the root cause of everything. And once that essence is recognized and fully realized, then a desireless state arises, because it's like a complete um, circle. A circle that's already complete would not feel empty within. So, in that way, they have no desire to gain anything, and for them, there is no loss left in the world as well. ਸਲੋਕ ਇਹ ਨਿਸ਼ਚਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਆਤਮਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ, ਮੌਨ ਹੋ ਚੁਕੇ ਜੋਗੀ ਦੇ ਇਹ ਵਿਕਲਪ ਕੀ ਮੈਂ ਉਹ ਹਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਾਂ ਸਮਾਪਤ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ। So they have got this firm understanding. Nishcha means that they don't even need to think about it. They don't need to do abhyas of it. They don't need to do practice of it. And once they have recognized that it is just the Atam Swarup that's present everywhere, they become completely free within themselves. Nishkam Vyakti ki Jahandi. So, yeah. So they become completely free within them. Mon hoy means, it doesn't mean that they don't physically speak. It just means that they have understood, or they have realized, they have reached a thoughtless state as well. So now they only talk when naturally, um, in a very natural state. So they don't have to think twice, they don't overthink. So because in today's world, if you really think, one of the chronic condition that's going on is overthinking. Now, medically, we go to a psychologist, they give us tools like meditation, deep breathing, and all that. Those are great. One should definitely do that. However, without recognizing that we can't continue doing that for rest of the life, there is surely going to be the time when the mind is going to start racing again. Now, the truth is, which Gurbani talks about, which Brahmagyani talks about from their experiences, that after recognizing the Atam Sarup, the mind naturally ceases to exist. So the overthinking stops. And in that moment, the mind becomes as if there is no, which is called aman, means the mind no longer exists there. So in that way, they have become mourn. They no longer are. Um, the mind is no longer wandering around in different directions. ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸਮਾਪਤ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਭਾਵ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਉਹ ਹਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਾਪਤ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ. So in that way, the separation completely gets eradicated. There is no separate me left for a Brahmagyan. They know, they recognize that it is just a play going on. So in that way, they don't have these emotions of that I am this, um, I'm not this. They don't even think that I am Brahm, because they are so, the mind has become so still in that own Atam Sarup that they don't have to even think about it anymore. Salok, Shanti ਵਿੱਚ ਸਥਿਤ ਜੋਗੀ ਲਈ ਨਾ ਵਿਖੇਪ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਇਕਾਗਰਤਾ, ਨਾ ਅਤ ਗਿਆਨ ਨਾ ਮੂਰਖਤਾ, ਨਾ ਸੁਖ ਅਤੇ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਦੁਖ. See, all these things are signs of duality. We obviously, oftentimes in meditation, we chase the stillness of the mind. However, for a real yogi who has recognized the Atam Sarup, they are not chasing stillness of the mind anymore as well. There, there is absolutely no question of duality or non-duality. Because at the end of the day, all these states are of the mind, whether we call it wisdom or agyanta or sukh or dukh. These are all the states of the mind. The moment the mind attaches to the body and starts perceiving the world through that, it experiences dukh and sukh. But the moment one recognizes their Atam Sarup, in that very instant, all that easily gets faded away. So in that way, ਮਨ ਦੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਘੁੰਮਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਖਿੰਨ ਭਰ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਟਿਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ. So naturally, that is what Gurbani is trying to direct the mind towards. Because those Mahapurukhs who have written Gurbani, they have understood the mind in such a fine, in such a detailed way that they know what is happening in the mind. And that's not something that's only happening in today's era. It has always been happening. The restlessness, everyone is trying to find this peace. And that's because obviously that is the very nature, because it is the very basic right of everyone to experience this peace. But the thing is, the fault that's happened is we have been taught to look for peace in the wrong direction, in the wrong things. Nobody tells about that there is a very precious, like a priceless diamond within you. Maharaj calls it anmol, that this is a very ratan, that it's a very important gem within you, and everyone has access to that. What happens after that is that the mind becomes absolutely still. That's why it's called a state of bliss. It's a never ending state of peace. So Mara says, Gurmukh Prabhu ਨਾਮ ਦੀ ਕਸੌਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਅਰਥਾਤ ਸ਼ੂਨਯ ਮਨ ਦੀ ਅਵਸਥਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸੰਕਲਪ ਵਿਕਲਪ ਸਮਾਪਤ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ. So a Gurmukh who has spent time with the wisdom, who goes to the Guru, who takes the Vidya, after doing the abhyas, after doing the practice, and then not even having ahankar of that practice, that Gurmukh has reached a thoughtless state. And in that thoughtless state, there are absolute no worries left of the world. There is no sankalp as in that I should do this or I am running behind. Oftentimes, I come across many people who talk about these things. Naturally, you can tell the state of someone's mind by the way they talk. And naturally, we are always either looking for the future, looking for this thing, some excitement in life, or we are pondering, reflecting on the past things that has happened. Very rarely the mind is living in the present. So Gurbani encourages, that's why Gurbani is talking directly to the mind. And in that, after that practice, a Gurmukh has attained a state of absolute stillness. So that's why it's called that Mananu Marlena, means the mind has literally disappeared. It no longer exists. Salok. ਵਿਕਲਪ ਰਹਿਤ ਸੁਭਾਅ ਵਾਲੇ ਜੋਗੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਰਾਜ ਕਰਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਭਿੱਖਿਆ ਮੰਗਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਾਭ ਹਾਨੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਭੀੜ ਜਾਂ ਜੰਗਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਭਾਵ koi antar nahi. So Maharaj is clearly giving an example of a yogi as well. We obviously in a world we today's era we often think that a yogi is someone who is doing certain postures with the body. Gurbani also has a very profound explanation which is similar to this, that who a yogi actually is. So Maharaj says that those yogis, first of all, they have recognized their own Atam Sarup. And in that Atam Sarup, they have reached a thoughtless state. And they have eradicated the home. So they're not even having any ego that they have reached that state. It's happening so naturally within them. In that state, they don't hesitate if they have to be act like a king or they even can be a beggar. There is no difference. They don't feel happy or take pride if they become take if they reach a high status in society, or if they live a very mediocre, even like a pikya mangan means to beg even. So there is no difference like for them in those statuses. Labhani, which there is no profit or loss in them, nor they are afraid of living in a nice place in their home, or if they have to live in a forest. Same like Ramji Maharaj, when he had to go live in that, have to do the sannyas, when he had to live 14 years in the jungle. He didn't, even though he was like a king, he didn't feel upset about it at all, that I have to leave my palace, all the riches, and I have to live in a forest. Now, that's the state of a Brahmagyani. It's not merely something to be said. It's actually a living example. That's why it's easy to read about this wisdom. It's so easy to talk about this wisdom. It's easy to debate about this wisdom. But the real point is, are we able to practice it? Are we able to actually experience? Forget about living in a house or a forest. In today's world, if we don't get the comforts of the life, if we have a little bit of hot, like a warm weather, a cold weather, we start complaining constantly, because that is the state of our mind. So forget about this is a very high level Maharaj is talking about. But in today's world, with Mara Kirpa, we are not in a state that we have to actually do these things. However, if we look closely into our life, how much are we constantly, we notice that the mind is constantly complaining. So the Gurbani does this magical, beautifully, it transforms the mind. From a complaining mind, it transforms to a mind of grace, a mind that no matter where it is always in bliss, even if at home, even among people, Even if they are at home, they don't feel lonely. Even if they are among friends, family, they don't feel excited about it. To them, it's the same state. Salok, ਇਹ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਵੰਦਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਮੁਕਤ ਜੋਗੀ ਲਈ ਧਰਮ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੈ, ਕਾਮਨਾ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੈ, ਅਰਥ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੈ, ਵਿਵੇਕ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੈ। ਅਰਥਾਤ ਉਸ ਲਈ ਧਰਮ ਅਰਥ ਕਾਮ ਵਿਵੇਕ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰਯੋਜਨ ਨਹੀਂ। So these terms are used for different structures. Let's understand. Dharam is a responsibility, a sense of duty towards something. In a very simplified way, let's say you are a mother, you're a father, you're a brother, or all these. So you have a natural responsibility towards others, right? So we obviously take upon those labels, and then we spend our whole life protecting that identity. We say, I am a wife, I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a mother, all these. And then when things don't go according to those identities, we struggle. So that's Taram, the natural law, that the natural flow of the responsibilities that we take upon ourselves. Arth means the material things. Like we go to work, we make a living, we earn money, then we, buy things and all that. Calm is the desires. It doesn't just mean the physical, sexual nature desires. It means any form of desire. It could be getting a new job, getting more money, getting a house, getting car, getting a partner. All these are different examples of desires. Vivek means the intellect that has actually processed the Guru's wisdom, and then it knows now to differentiate between right and wrong, between Sat and Asat. But Maharaj says that for a Jivan Mukt person, these things, they are not born to any of these things anymore. That's why it's known as the highest form of freedom, because they are not entangled in any of that. They are naturally having a very effortless state. Now Maharaj will explain that then how do they live their life. Does it mean they don't go to work? Because Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, obviously all the gurus, they have had a livelihood. They would work physically, they would spend time with the family. So what does that really mean then? ਇੱਥੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਮੁਕਤ ਜੋਗੀ ਲਈ ਕਰਤਵ ਕਰਮ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਨਾ ਹੀ ਉਸਦੇ ਹਿਰਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਲਗਾ ਹੈ. So Maharaj says here, for a person who is completely liberated, has absolute no attachments anymore. ਉਹ ਯਥਾ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਜੀਵਨ ਹੀ ਜਿਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ. So this is the answer to that. How do they live then? Like we discussed, that it's just happening in a very effortless state. It's like when we feel thirsty, we drink water. Now, do we actually, contemplate? Do we actually think that should I drink water or should I not? Now, obviously, you would have noticed this, that when you feel extremely thirsty, you'll naturally go search for the water. You'll go grab a glass of water and you can't quench the thirst. And that doesn't happen after critical thinking. However, when it comes to other aspects of life, we obviously like planning. We like thinking all the stuff that could go wrong or that could go right. However, for a Jivan Mukt person, it's happening in a natural state. Even the process of thinking is happening in a natural way, because the thoughts are appearing in them and they are simply aware of how the activities of the mind. So they're not getting entangled by the mind as well. If there is, the thoughts will appear. This doesn't mean that after attaining this state of Jivan Mukti, they have actually the power to reach a thoughtless state. However, even if the thoughts appear, they don't see it as a different thing, or you know, any matter of any issue here. So naturally, everything that happens according to the pralabdha. So pralabdha is a word used to explain how, so basically how it, in a very simplified ways, how it works is the mind has impressions on it. For instance, let's say the identity is being, I'm a female, I'm of this age, I have a family, I am this. So all these labels, um, I don't like this, I like this. These are the impressions of the mind. And from that, there are, it it gives birth to desires. So the mind becomes restless. So all these impressions of the mind ends up resulting in another body. And Gurbani talks about this too, that as per karmi ave kapada, because of your previous desires, you took this form. Some had probably desire of reading more Gurbani, so they took another form because they loved Gurbani so much. Some had desire of, they were attached to Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, so they take form to do abhyas of, to do experience of Guru's Bani. So all these different impressions that's been left on the mind results in causing another body. And some have, let's say, they want to they have a desire, let's say someone who hasn't got any kids, and if they're contemplating about it, they will, and they lose their breath, they naturally gonna take another form so that they can experience that again. So that's how this play actually works. That's why Maharaj says the desireless state, and Maharaj always asks for contentment, because a mind that is fully content has no desires in it. It means that they don't take birth according to their wish. If the full if it happens, they are okay with that. If it doesn't happen, they don't get affected by it. So Maharaj says for a Jivan Mukt person, after they have recognized their Atam Sarup, they experience the life based on what the previous actions were. Even if they have, let's say, done a lot of bhakti in the previous life, and this life they are experiencing a lot of sukh, a lot of pleasures, they're not getting affected by it because they understand that even this sukh is temporary. This there is no end to it. And if a dukkha comes, again, they remain absolutely detached. They don't get affected by it too because they have understood the play of a Kalpurakh. So, in that way, Maharaj says those Mahapurukhs who are living the life of Jivan Mukt, they are simply living a very effortless state. So, Maharaj Kirpa, we will take a pause here. It's important to remember that the state of Jivan Mukt is not for only special, specific people. It's not only for people who go to Gurdwara every Sunday or who spend more and more time reading Gurbani. It's available to everyone. Guru is not only born to certain religion, certain gender. The Guru can do kirpa on anyone. And that's why, as human beings, we have this very precious opportunity that we can read, we can become the version of this wisdom, so we can be the very essence of who we actually are rather than being entangled in dukh or sukh of life. There is a state called Anandavastha, and that's what Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj has blessed everyone. Maharaj broke all the barriers, And Maharaj gave this wisdom for absolute of no cause. The only thing Maharaj in Gurbani they ask as well, where is an example of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj asking for the head as well. That's that signifies that you have to let go of the old ways of thinking. So Maharaj says, give me your old intellect. Give me the way you were thinking before, and let me give you a gift of a new way of experiencing life. A way of life where you will, no matter wherever you are physically, you will never feel any type of dukh. You will never feel empty within yourself. You will never feel lonely. You will never go through any struggles of life anymore. And that is the state Maharaj is blessing us all. So, Maharaj Kirpa, may we understand this wisdom. May we contemplate and practice every day in our life. And when we experience anything from this wisdom, may we always surrender it to Guru. So we don't think that it is our wisdom. It's the wisdom that has always been going on for centuries. And it's going to continue happening whether your body remains or not. So there is no point of even having any even an iota of home here, because this is the wisdom that is forever and forever that's going to remain. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.